Hello friends, Tom Downey here to take a look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers preseason profile. We'll start things off with their key additions. Tampa Bay had two big areas of concern, at least in my eyes. First up was the defensive line. It just was not very good last year. So what do? They trade for Jason Pierre Paul. They signed Vinny, Bo Allen, and Mitch Unrein. And then they draft Vita too. That's one way to take a weakness into a strength in a very short period of time. I also thought that the secondary had some concerns. The Bucs went out and drafted three secondary players, Carlton Davis, MJ Stewart, and Jordan Whitehead in the first 4 rounds of this year's NFL draft. Helps put Vernon Hargreaves on notice as well. Ryan Gentry comes over, should be a quality center up front. I like Alex Kappa too as a kind of a mid to late round pick for the Bucs. All in all, a really good move of addition to the Bucs. As their losses, well, not a whole lot to write home about. Doug Martin was awful last year. Chris Baker was a bust, even though I actually really liked him last year. Was disappointed by how he played. Robert Ayers is a fine player, but when you bring in Curry and JPP, you kind of don't need him anymore. So overall, I love what the Bucs did in terms of personnel. It's an A grade for me in that area. Talk about Dirk Cutter later, but in terms of players that they added, I loved it for Tampa Bay. The talent level grew for the Bucs team. They were a disappointment last year, but talent-wise, you would think they'll be better this season. It's the preseason side of things for the Bucs, and they play the Dolphins on the road in Week 1, go to Tennessee in Week 2, host the Lions and Jacks to end the year as they kind of do the road home games, and then 2 games against other Florida teams. Focus on that Week 3 matchup against Detroit. It's the dress rehearsal game. 2 big question marks for me. Number 1, who is the lead at halfback? They brought in Jones out of USC. Some other guys also competing there, though. And namely, does the defensive line improve enough? That is a big concern for me. Yes, they added a bunch of new pieces. They have to get that chemistry going, and the unit last year was just awful. So hopefully it can only go up from here. Some training camp storylines to monitor here. First up, who emerges at the running back spot? Now, I like what Ronald Jones brings to you, but I do worry about him being a true featured back. Can he handle 20 or 25 carries a game? I don't know if he actually can. The other guys on the depth chart there, Peyton Barber, Charles Sims, Jaquiz Rogers, they can all contribute. I think Barber actually is one of the most, he looked the best out of the 3 guys I thought last year of Rogers, Sims, and Barber, of course, with Doug Martin no longer gone. So let me know who you guys want as the Bucs starting halfback. I will lean toward Jones, but I won't quite give up on Peyton Barber quite. I think he can be at least a quality backup for Tampa Bay. Back to defense now. Does the front 4 improve, especially do they improve enough? It is a completely new unit, of course, minus Gerald McCoy, who we all know is incredible. So JPP is there, Vinny, they got Noah Spence, looking kind of like a bust at this point, William Golston, Will Clark too. The defensive line interior should be better too. McCoy and Vita Vea, I love Vita Vea. That was my dude in this year's draft class. I loved him. A great selection for Tampa Bay. He and Gerald McCoy, plus Mitch Unrein, plus Bo Allen, and Curry. This should be a much, much better Bucs defensive line if they play the way they think they can, and if the coaching staff gets the most out of those guys. To the secondary now, and kind of some question marks. Now, Brent Grimes is back, that's for sure. Justin Evans I like quite a bit, but the secondary, a lot of these guys got put on notice by what the Bucs did in the draft. Now, Vernon Hargreaves, a former high first-round pick, bit of a question mark right now. Ryan Smith, Avian Elliott, those guys can play some nickel too. Outside of Brent Grimes being one starter, I think really spots 2 through 5 or 6 for the secondary are wide open. I like Carlton Davis. I like MJ Stewart. I think I'll also play some safety if needed. A lot of young, promising players there who will actually emerge at corner. As for safety, I like Justin Evans. Not a big Chris Conte guy. I was a big fan, though, of Jordan Whitehead. Maybe he can become the free safety pair with Justin Evans. He's a little bit undersized. I think he'll be good enough there. All in all, a lot of young, cheap players in the secondary who, though, will actually emerge for Tampa is a big, big question mark. On to their schedule, and look, NFC South is tough. The NFC East is tough this year. Tampa's talent should have them compete in a lot of these games, but it's a tough slate of games here. At the Saints, home against Philly, home against Pittsburgh, at Chicago, at Atlanta. Look, there is at least a real chance the Bucs start the year 0-5. Now, maybe they beat Chicago or pull upset somewhere, but that's a tough set of games there with 3 road games and 2 home games against better teams from Philadelphia. Week 7, Week 8, those are games they can win. Then onward against Carolina. So to start the year, you could have a 3-4 win Bucs team. That kind of might be it. Week 10 through 11, you can win a couple of those games. Maybe you're sitting there at 5 wins through Week 11, but then a gauntlet to end the year. Against San Francisco, home against Carolina, home against the Saints, at Baltimore, at Dallas, at Atlanta. That's tough. Those are very difficult games for the Bucs there. They could end the year on a several-game losing streak, and it wouldn't surprise me all that much. As for what they will do this year, at least what I will predict that they're going to do, +7 on odds to win the Super Bowl. Again, not very high, and I'm not surprised. I do not trust Dirk Cutter. This Bucs team is a classic example of a team not being the sum of their parts. This team has plenty of talent. I like Winston. I like Jones. I love Mike Evans. This team should compete for the NFC South, but why would we trust Dirk Cutter right now? He didn't prove it last year. It should have been their breakout season, and they failed. I do not trust Dirk Cutter to get the most out of this team. They should have fired him last year. I think this is going to be a bit of a wasted year for Tampa Bay, playing in a difficult NFC South. The talent is there, but I do not trust the coaching staff. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree. Tell me where you think the Bucs will finish in the NFC South. I got them pegged at 4th. Panthers, Falcons, Saints. I just think they're better teams and better coached as well. Follow us on Instagram @ChatSports for all the best Instagram coverage out there for the NFL, including some highlights we'll post throughout the season.